Well, good morning.
Morning.
So good to gather together in the Lord's house. If you were with us last week, we've started a new series. If you weren't with us last week, we've started a new series. It's called Party Preparations, and we're looking at this big, epic event, once in a millennia, right? Once in an eon event, where the wedding of the Lamb and the bride is going to take place. And so last week we looked kind of at the end of the story. We looked at some of the descriptions in the book of Revelation. And this week we're going to come back to it, but I want to look at a component of it that is relevant to us. All right, so Revelation 7:9, right? We get this glimpse of a multitude. Revelation 7:9. After this I looked, this is John's writing, he's looking, he sees this vision. Behold, a great multitude that no one could number. From every nation, from all tribes and peoples and languages, standing before the throne and before the Lamb, clothed in white robes, with palm branches in their hands. This multitude is the bride of Christ. This multitude is the Big C church, right? The church from all time. Not just a local church, not just a local denomination, but the church triumphant is gathered together, and they're this huge multitude. So big you couldn't count. And they're incredibly interesting to look at because it's not homogeneous. Right? They're not boring, looking the same people. It's every tribe, every nation from all time. So a bunch of them we've never seen, and they're all gathered together. I want this week to focus on how do you get to be in that group? How do you get to be part of that multitude? That's where I want to focus this week. Because that multitude has a responsibility, and that multitude has some work to do, but how do we get in that multitude? So I want to focus there, and I'm going to jump to Revelation 19:9. The angel said to me, write this, blessed are those who are invited to the marriage supper of the Lamb. Blessed are those who are invited. You ever been invited to something? Right, sometimes it's wide open, right? The circus comes to town and they're like, come one, come all, right? It's a huge invitation. They just want some of your revenue, right? Like it's not personal, they don't care, there's no guest list. This isn't that. Sometimes you see in movies, there's this classic thing where it's like somebody goes to the very official party, and my name's on the list, and they're like, I can't see, your name's not on the list, and there's this sort of tension, and if it's a spy movie, somebody back in the back is messing with the internet to cause it to pop up on the guest list, and, no, see, my name's on the guest list. There's this relationship, right? You've seen films like that. Am I the only one that watches these films? No. Okay. This party is by invitation only, but it's not only by invitation. All right, so without any interest in actually throwing my children under the bus as if they are unique in this, there's a thing I observe daily, where mom says, dinner's ready, come to the table. That's it. That's the sound. Crickets. Nothing happens. Like, that's actually the sound. Absolute crickets. And then there's a slight tone shift and a volume increase. Dinner is ready. Come to the table. Now, here's what I want to say. My wife has given an invitation, but nobody's actually responded to the invitation in a way that makes the invitation effective. And so when I say blessed are everybody who's invited, I don't mean come one, come all, and we're done. There's something of a relationship in the invitation. You have to do something to respond. Like every now and then, I get this so often. I'll meet somebody new, they find out that I'm a pastor, and so they want to help me understand that they too are religious. And they're like, I believe in Jesus and God and stuff. I absolutely cannot list how many times somebody has looked me in the eye and said, I believe in Jesus and God and stuff. To which my head wants to say, so does Satan. What does that have to do with anything? Right? Now, I'm polite. I've learned how to interact with people in public settings. And I usually just smile and move on. Because what they've communicated to me is they're not Christian. But they're not trying to be insulting to me, and I can honor that. We can work with that. You've recognized that there's some stuff I believe, and you don't believe exactly as I do, but we're willing to play along. I'm okay with that in a public setting. But as we talk about invitation, everybody's invited. So when it says, blessed are those that are invited, are we talking about those that are invited or those that are invited? Right, there's something going on here that we need to unpack. Because on a lot of levels, Jesus was very clear. If the Son of Man is lifted up on the cross, and by everybody who's preached the gospel ever since, if the Son of Man is lifted up, I will draw people to myself. I will draw them. And God's like, I'm not slow, y'all. I know you're wondering, when is this end coming? We've been waiting for the end. When's the end? Lots of people are like, I think there's a theory that the end will... And I'm like, nobody knows the day or the hour. But this push towards the end, in Peter, God's like, I'm not slow. I'm intentionally being patient so that there's a chance more will enter my kingdom. Right. Because if there's no response, there's no salvation. All the work's done, some of the work's not done. All the work's done. Jesus died on the cross. The atonement is done. The invitations have gone out. It is wide open and available. But not everybody is invited. Not everybody shows up with their invitation in hand at the list, and the guy looks at the guest list and goes, you're good. I want to show up with my invitation looking fine in my wedding robes. And the guy goes, yeah, you're good. Come on in, Nathan. Guys, there's a response that has to happen for an invitation to be successful. All right, I got a couple of parables I want to look at today. There are two parables, one in Matthew, one in Luke. It's a chance that they're parallel versions of the same story. It's a chance that he told the same parable twice in slightly different ways. We're going to look at both of them because there's a couple of details I want to pull out. One is in Matthew 22, and one is in Luke 14. You're welcome to look at these. We'll have them on the screen, but definitely follow along. Go back and look at these during the week. But I'm going to read these, and we're going to pull out some details of what I think is on us to respond to an invitation. So Matthew 22, I'm going to start at verse 1. And again, Jesus spoke to them in parables, saying, the kingdom of heaven may be compared to a king who gave a wedding feast for his son. And he sent his servants to call those who were invited to the wedding feast. But they would not come. Again, he sent other servants saying, tell those who are invited, I prepared my dinner, my oxen, my fat calves have been slaughtered. Everything's ready. Come to the wedding feast. But they paid no attention and went off, one to his farm, another to his business. While the rest seized his servants, treated them shamefully, and killed them. The king was angry. And he sent his troops and destroyed those murderers and burned their city. Then he said to his servants, the wedding feast is ready, but those invited were not worthy. Go therefore to the main roads and invite to the wedding feast as many as you can find. And those servants went out into the roads and gathered all whom they found, both good and bad. And the wedding hall was filled with guests. There's a couple of things I don't want us to ever miss. And the first one is that the heart of God wants a full wedding hall. That the grace and just love of God is so vast that his invitation goes to less worthy people too. Which is super convenient for me. Right? There's absolutely nothing about me that is sufficiently famous, sufficiently wise, sufficiently amazing, that if there were a wedding of the eons, my name would naturally be on that list. Right? There's, no, come on. Right? I mean, yes, I think I'm a big deal, but no, I'm not that big a deal, right? And if you've got some humility that's in reach, neither are you. And there's nothing about that that's shameful, because who would be? Like really, no, who would be? And so there's this beautiful thing about the heart of God that is huge and says, listen, go find more people. I want my wedding to be full. Go find more people. And there's this underlying tone of the son's honor is worthy of a full wedding hall. If you throw a wedding and nobody comes, what insult does that communicate? But this bridegroom is worthy of a full wedding hall. And so there's this push to say, no, like we've made preparations. Right? And I can theologically go, they've atoned for your sin, they've communicated through revelation so that you could possibly hear it, he's been patient with you, he's delayed your judgment till later because he wants to give you a chance. Like, it's ready. Come. The king's invitation requires a response. And you can say no. It's a really interesting thing to me that God, who is the creator of all things, who is absolutely all-powerful, goes, hey, Mike, would you come to the wedding? And Mike actually has the ability to respond. But it's fascinating to me that God would give us such freedom. And he does. And he does. I'm going to jump over to Luke 14, starting at verse 15. Then those who reclined at the table with him, they're at a party as this story unfolds, heard these things. He said, blessed is everyone who will eat bread in the kingdom of God. But he, that's Jesus, said to him, a man once gave a great banquet and invited many. And at the time for the banquet, he sent his servant to those who had been invited, come, for everything's now ready. They all alike began to make excuses. The first said to him, I bought a field, I must go examine it. Please have me excused. And another said, I've just bought 5 yoke of oxen, right? I gotta go check these out. Please have me excused. And another said, I've just married a wife. I can't come right now. And the servant came and reported these things to his master. And the master of the house became angry and said to his servant, go out quickly to the streets and lanes of the city and bring in the poor and the crippled and the blind and the lame. And the servant said, sir, what you've commanded has been done. There's still room. And the master said to the servant, go out to the highways and the hedges, compel people to come in, that my house may be filled. For I tell you, none of those men who were invited shall taste my banquet. A couple things. One, the king's invitation is a gift. It's a gift. He doesn't have to invite you. There's nothing in you that would generate a force upon God to compel him to invite you. But there is within him a force that compels him to do so, and it is his love for us. He absolutely loves us. He self-compels that he would come to us, that even in the highways and the hedges, he would say, go beat the bushes, find everybody you can, bring them in, everybody's go. And he's sending his servants, come to the kingdom. And his love just absolutely compels that, but it's a gift. There's nothing in us that would force his hand. But here we have another use of that word invited. For I tell you, none of those men who were invited shall taste my banquet. So on the one hand, blessed are those who are invited, and on the other hand, blessed are those who do something with the invitation. Like maybe that's a meaningful translation. They got invited, they just didn't make it important. They got invited and they just didn't make it important. And they missed the party of all time. Now it's an interesting thing. They got invited. They found other things to focus on. And at some point, God, who gives us great freedom, honors our choices. It's like, come come. No, I've got these oxen. I kind of want to go walk them up and down the field a few times, see how they pull. Okay, if you don't want to come, now you can't. Right? There's a shift that happens at the end of this parable. None of those who were invited shall taste my banquet. They were invited, they didn't come, they didn't make it a priority, they didn't make a response that's appropriate to an invitation to actually get there, and at some point God went, okay. And their decision gets locked. Now, I want to tell you, the really good news for us humans is that none of your decisions are locked yet. You've got a whole life to figure out how you're going to do this. And you have no idea what the timeline really is. Right? So you have your whole life to figure out how you're going to respond to this invitation, and you don't know. All right, so once upon a time, Olivia, can I talk about your wedding? Because I'm so glad to see you again. All right, so I got invited to Olivia's wedding, and I didn't go. Okay? But let me tell you how this went down. Because my love for Andrew and Olivia is not actually reflected in that storyline. I took one for the team. So here's how this went. Every elder at our church got invited to Olivia's wedding. And one night, at the elders meeting, we did the thing you do when you're weighing an invitation. You figure out, can I go? Can I afford to go? Where will I stay? How will I get there? Do I need to get off of work? Do I need a hotel? For the Heislers, can I get a campsite? Right, there's process that happens. And you've got to work the process or you don't get there. Y'all with me? And so one night at the elders meeting, ahead of the RSVP deadline that had been asked, the question comes up at the elders meeting. Is everybody going to Olivia and Andrew's wedding? And I look around the room and I realize somebody's going to have to run the church. Because if I'm in Virginia for a wedding on Saturday, I can't be here on Sunday morning. Right? I'm looking around the room and I immediately recognize, yeah, I'm not going to get to go to their wedding. But everybody in the room was doing the thing you do with a real invitation. What's it going to take? Can I go? How do I get there? What are the obstacles? You start working the puzzle. And as I was there working the puzzle in team, I realized, no, I need to send my apologies, and I need to stay and run the church. I have some responsibilities here. And everybody else booked their hotels or stayed with a friend or got a camp. Everybody else worked their puzzle. How was the wedding, Alyssa? It was great. Yeah. But everything that happens with a real wedding has its corollary in the spiritual of what you do with God's invitation to the kingdom. What's it going to cost you? Are you willing to pay that cost? What are the obstacles between here and the kingdom? What's it going to take? Everybody has to weigh that. Because I was invited and I didn't attend. And that reality is part of how this invitation works. Because God's invitation is huge. It's so generous. Like Mike Foster got one. It's so generous. And we're good enough friends, and his life 20 years ago was a big enough dumpster fire that we can joke about that. But the reality is he's going to go into the kingdom ahead of us. Because he said yes. And he's laid it down.
Hallelujah.
And he's paid the cost. Right? Like at some point, the invitation goes out, and it goes out to some unsuspecting people, and some of those unsuspecting people say yes, pay the cost, do what it takes, get their robes clean and white, and they show up ready for a party. Will you come? Will you come? it's going to be a really big wedding. It's going to be more beautiful than you've ever imagined. The size of the carnelians alone, the size of the emeralds that are an entire gate to a city, the fact that we're replacing pavement with potholes with gold, like, it is going to be so pretty. And you're not even going to notice it because your eyes are going to be fixed on the groom. Because there's going to be a lamb who was slain, standing in our midst, and one on the throne. One on the throne. And you're going to get to walk in the room. And you're gonna step on this sort of crystal glass sapphire, and you're gonna look, and there's gonna be a lamb who was slain that's there, and everything else isn't gonna matter. Will you come? When people came out to John the Baptist, and John's actively trying to make way, a path to the Lord, to knock down the big hills and fill up the ravines so you can have a nice level walk so the Lord can walk right in. As he's there trying to prepare a way, people are coming out and they're responding, and they're like, what do we do? And he's like, bear fruit worthy of repentance. There is nothing about this invitation that invites you to some casual, passive, intellectual assent. You get a wedding in the mail, it's like, yeah, I think I'll go to that. And you don't make plans, and you don't do anything, and you don't respond. Like, you're not going to that wedding. Right? You said you were. In your head, you're like, oh yeah, I think I'll go to that. And you don't do the work. But the reality is we're called to some effort, folks. Did Jesus do the lion's share of the labor? Yeah, okay. Like, yeah. It's doing it again, isn't it? Yeah. Sorry. See if that helps. Did God do the heavy lifting of your salvation? Yes. But will you come? And will you do the things necessary to come? Because it's not a one thought passively, and you're like, yeah, you know what, I think Jesus is God. That's a great start. But will you follow him? We need to bear fruit worthy of repentance. So let me give you, I think there's one of his parables that helps us understand what that might mean for us. So I'm going to shift to Jesus' parable that I think should be called the parable of the soils, but is often in your text called the parable of the sower, which doesn't make sense to me because the sower is consistent in the whole story and the thing that's different is the soils. But anyway, who am I to argue with publishers? Well, my name is on the list. All right, so Matthew 13. That same day, Jesus went out of the house and he sat beside the sea. Great crowds gathered around him. And then he got into a boat and he sat down, and the whole crowd stood on the beach, and he told them many things in parables, saying, a sower went out to sow. And as he sowed, some seeds fell along the path, and the birds came and they devoured them. Other seeds fell on rocky ground, where they did not have much soil, and immediately they sprang up, since they had no depth of soil. But when the sun rose, they were scorched. And since they had no root, they withered away. Other seeds fell among thorns, and the thorns grew up and choked them. And other seeds fell on good soil and produced grain, some 100-fold, some 60, some 30. He who has ears to hear, let him hear. Now, the disciples, eager as they were to follow Jesus and understand him, didn't most days. And so at some point they ask a question, like, what does it mean? Like, they're confused, they're trying, and Jesus patiently, so I'm jumping ahead a few verses to Jesus' explanation. He says, hear then the parable of the sower. When anyone hears the word of the kingdom and does not understand it, the evil one comes and snatches away what has been sown in his heart. That was those sown along the path. As for what was sown on rocky ground, this is the one who hears the word and immediately receives it with joy, yet he has no root in himself, He endures for a while, and when tribulation or persecution arises on account of the word, immediately he falls away. As for what was sown among thorns, this is the one who hears the word, but the cares of the world and the deceitfulness of riches choke the word, and it proves unfruitful. As for what was sown on good soil, this is the one who hears the word and understands it, and indeed bears and yields fruit. In one case 100-fold, in another 60, and another 30. Mike, I'm going to switch to this if that's okay. I don't enjoy the popping. I don't think you guys enjoy the popping. We're just switching up. We're good. The invitation comes to you like a seed. Your response is to bear fruit. Now this year, I'm not a very good gardener. To those of you that are good gardeners, I'm not sure I'm actually asking for help as much as I am just acknowledging the fact that I don't give it much time. But I planted some tomatoes this year. I will never eat a tomato from those plants. I did. I planted some tomatoes this year because I love a tomato from a home garden. They taste better than the ones at the store. They're probably the same as the ones at the farmer's market, but they're not, they just taste better, right? And so I planted some tomatoes. And then I ignored them. I didn't water them. Y'all with me? Yep. This year, that alone would be enough, wouldn't it? Right. Yeah. This year, that alone would be enough. It's been pretty dry. I will never eat a tomato from one of those plants. I'm looking at them and I know they are never going to get to maturity. It just isn't going to happen. Part of that is we live in a place where winter's a month away. And so I'm going to run out of time. That's for the people who moved here, okay? You locals, I know, it's longer, I know. But for the transplants, we're all like, why is winter so long? I'm looking at these plants and I know they're never going to grow to maturity. They're never going to produce fruit. You have been invited to a wedding. You should show up with fruit. You should say yes to the invitation. And you should get your pick and your shovel out, and you should start getting rid of the stones so that you can grow roots. You should weed your garden. I actually haven't had to weed my tomatoes this year because there hasn't been enough rain to even grow those. But there's been times when I've tried to plant a garden and I go out and I can't find my plants because of the other stuff that's grown up around it. And I don't get fruit from those either. If you're going to say yes to Jesus, and hear me out, you should. Such a good decision. You absolutely should. It isn't a passive intellectual yes once. You're probably going to have to change. Because some of you aren't that nice. You're probably going to have to change because some of you aren't yet that righteous. You're going to need to dig the soil of your life. You're going to need to fertilize the growth in your life. It's part of why we gather weekly. It's part of why we have small groups. It's part of why we teach you how to do a Bible, how to reach. We're constantly trying to give you the tools to do the work of cultivating fruit for the King. But church, we're called to show up with an absolute cornucopia of fruit for the King. Just a massive amount of fruit for the King. That people know that we said yes, and we said yes, and we said yes, and we said yes, and we said yes to everything the Master asked of us. And so our lives begin to demonstrate this transformation. There's fruit where the poor in town know who we are because we've blessed them. And the lonely in town know who we are because we came alongside them and we treated them like a guest. Where the people who are grieving found us alongside them, mourning with them, comforting them, bringing the comfort we've received and offering it to them. The people who are lost and confused found that we went to them and said, "Can I show you the way? Because I found this Savior and He's amazing. And He helped me and I think He could help you. Can I show you the way?" Church, we're invited to be a beautiful bride. We're invited to a stunning wedding. But we have some work to do. I remember trying to explain I was teaching a class called Life of Jesus in a Christian high school that didn't require families to be Christian to send their kids there. And so about half of my students were completely unchurched. They didn't know the scriptures, they hadn't been to church, everything was foreign. I'm teaching a class called Life of Jesus. And I'm teaching about Jesus calling disciples. And somebody asks the question, like, so did they pray and ask Jesus into their heart? There's some stuff we do in the church to help the gospel make sense to children that actually may not help you. You see, when Jesus invited somebody, "Come be my disciple, come follow me," they literally changed their vocation. And I think we've presented it like you can just say yes, maybe one time in a prayer, and somehow that's the whole shebang. And like, I think you can enter in. I think you can start the story with one prayer. Like, that doesn't bother me. But the call is to bear fruit. And so when Jesus pulls up by the sea, and there's these guys, and they're mending their nets, and they've just been fishing on the lake, and He's like, "Hey, follow me." They literally drop the tools of their trade, change their vocation, get up, and walk. Do they know where they're going? No. Do they know what's coming next? Do they know who they're following? Barely. I mean, honestly, right? But they give it a go. And they say yes. And that's what's asked of us. Jesus is Lord. It does mean master. It does mean He's the boss of me. And when He says, "Come follow me," I go, "Okay, where are we going?" He may or may not tell you. When Matthew is sitting at the tax collector booth and Jesus rolls up and He's like, "Follow me," He literally leaves behind piles of money and ledgers and a relationship with the Roman government and walks. That's what's being asked of you. Come follow Him. Follow Him all the way down the aisle to the altar. Join the bride. Today's question ultimately is, will you join Him as part of the bride? Right? God's inviting you to the marriage of the Lamb. Will you join Him? That's today's question. For some of you, you're like, "I've said yes to that, and I need to take the next step." There'll be some logical forward movement, right? Because it's not a one and done. If I get Olivia's invitation and I go, "Yeah, I want to go to that," but I don't book a hotel, but I don't make work plans, but I don't coordinate with the other people. Like there's not a just one and done to this. I'm going to spend the rest of my life faithfully executing this plan. It'll cost you. You'll have to remove some weeds from your life. The cares of the world, the deceitfulness of riches, the things that choke us, you're going to have to do some weeding. In my experience is Jesus doesn't do that weeding for us. He lets us do it. Because he honors our decisions. You're going to have to put down some roots. You're going to have to read the Bible on days you don't want to. You're going to have to go to church when you don't want to. You're going to have to figure out how to worship Jesus after you lost your religion trying to get your kids to church. Yeah, it happens, folks. Like, for sure. But you got to push in and do it anyway. Like a stubborn root going down between the cracks in the soil and pushing them apart to make place to get to water. If 30 years ago you had a great moment of drinking deeply from the well and you haven't drank since, you are parched. And the sun is going to scorch you. Guys, we got to drink regular if we're going to stay healthy enough to mature and bear fruit. But I want to bring fruit to the party. If no one's told you that no passive response will get you to the feast, I want to be the first one to tell you, no passive response will get you to the feast. The invitation is, come let Jesus be your master, come obey him and follow him. Spend your life refining that, because you won't be good at it at first. You'll get better, because you'll build some momentum. You get rid of enough weeds, the soil gets a little softer, you can get rid of the next weeds a little quicker. But we've got a party to go to. You're invited. I kind of assumed as I was writing this that there's the chance somebody in the room has not actually humbled themselves before Jesus and said, Jesus, would you be my master and can I follow you? There's kind of always the chance that in any given room, that's the case. And to that person, here's what I would say. It's worth it. Because he's good. And he does love you. Even when you're a knucklehead. But maybe you should stop being a knucklehead so often. Maybe you should let him refine you. Maybe you should let him help you cultivate a life that is worthy of the King. Our worship team's going to come up now. We're going to sing to Jesus because it's so appropriate. And I just want to say, if you can't gladly and quickly say, Jesus is my master and I love following him, I would just say, as we're singing, would you spend a little time, just in your own prayers, in your own time with God, would you spend a little bit of time speaking to God about the possibility of becoming his follower? Because he's inviting you. And at some point, if you bump into an obstacle and you're not sure how to do that, at the end of the service, there'll be people available to pray with you. We would love to help you begin those steps towards a life that is fruitful in God. But if that's you, don't miss this invitation. Because you're invited. But you need to get your name on the list too. Worship team, let's lead the church. Come on.